Kind of a short week this week. Tomorrow is Friday when the meditators can visit, which I love. It's so good to see you guys. So, at the start of our meditation today, I mentioned this condition of consciousness that the ancient yogis who meditated for thousands of centuries and or thousands of generations over hundreds of centuries, they found the ground of being of consciousness. They called it ever conscious, ever aware, ever new bliss, which is rather stunning to the average mortal mind. And how can we relate that to the topic of the fulfillment of desires? Well, Greg, you better come up with something fast. I got 5 minutes. So I think I got something for you. Tell me what you think. In addition to the ancient yogis identifying bliss, joy, and love as the ground of being, they identified a particular narrative of consciousness that they knew all human beings would encounter as humanity moved forward, as time moved forward. And so they set down a guide for us, everyone who would come later, of the various states of consciousness. And they identified 5 afflictions that would assail all human beings, all states of consciousness. This could be true all throughout the universe for all species everywhere, always, but consciousness would go through these, would experience these 5 levels. And they called these afflictions the kleshas, the 5 afflictions. The first affliction, and the most damaging, the most catastrophic, the most cataclysmic of all afflictions, was they called avidya, and avidya essentially means to forget who you are. From forgetting who we are, every following degradation of consciousness takes place. When we forget who we are, we develop a false sense of self. They called it ashmita. We might call it ego. But when we forget the grandeur, the miraculous and brilliant nature of our pure state of consciousness, all that's left is to fall into a small state of consciousness. And of course, in theology, this is called the fall of man. So now we've got an ashmita, and that's an ego. We have a small, limited, disconnected sense of self. We feel like a very small self in a very, very large universe that perhaps doesn't care about us, or we are insignificant as a grain of sand on the ocean. Well, from that point of view, we still have our desires and our wants and our instincts. And then the next 2 afflictions come. The first is called raga, and it means as a very small being, we look out into the world and we see the things that we like, and we reach and we clutch and we grab at it. We try to hold on to it for all of our might. We reach out and clutch at the things we want. We compete. And then even if we do happen to get it, we have to hold on to it with all of our might to make sure that nobody else gets it. And then there's the next affliction, which is called devesa, and that means there's the things we see in our reality that we hate, that disgust us. We look out and we see that and we want to push it away from us. So as small beings with our limited resources, we also see what we don't like, and we expend an enormous amount of energy pushing against it, resisting it, trying to make it go away, trying to take the people, the thoughts, and the ideas, that other half out there that are doing things wrong, and we try to quell them and eliminate them. Well, this leads to the 5th and final affliction in this downward spiral of consciousness. And it's called abhinavesa, and it means fear. It leads to probably the worst experience that human beings, the worst place consciousness can go, fear. And abhinavesa in its largest definition means fear of death, because if we forget who we are and we think we're mortal, limited beings, well, then of course we're subject to an upcoming, pretty soon, extinguishment and evaporation from this universe. And this is a downward spiral of consciousness. And the great yogis of antiquity, they saw that all individualized points of consciousness, you, me, and everyone, would be subject to this affliction. And yet there's a way out. There's a solution. There's a solution. The solution, if forgetting is the problem, then remembering is the solution. In our meditation, we're practicing remembering. We're always practicing remembering. Now, when we practice remembering and we remember that we're infinite consciousness, that we are love, joy, and bliss, we are Sat, Chit, Ananda, the fulfillment of desires is child's play. It's the easiest thing in the world. But when we forget who we are, we get lost in the trinkets of existence. We think the next job, the next relationship, the next pint of ice cream, the next plaque on the wall, the next gratuitous satisfaction of our senses will somehow fill in this endless chasm inside of us, this never able to be filled emptiness. It's like shoveling sand into the Grand Canyon. You can't even see it hit the bottom. When we have this feeling inside of us, we know something's amiss. And the answer, of course, is seek first the kingdom of heaven and everything else will be added. How might we say that in a different way? Clarify within oneself that the establishment of true knowledge, self-realization, comes first and foremost, and then every following satisfaction will fill in as easily as it could possibly happen. When we desire, it will be filled. When we seek, it will be answered. When we knock, it will be open. But that comes true. That is our reality when we remember who we are. So a brilliant story from the ancient yogis brought into modern times. And I hope you found it interesting and applicable to your life. We'll chat about it tomorrow. Peace.